Tackling ice-ridden runways in Alaska is a custom-made solution to a one-of-a-kind problem.
Maintaining our runway and keeping this airport open, there's not an option for failure.
In a major maritime hub, a new-age amphibious machine has been enlisted to lead search and rescue operations.
We're balancing the craft on a bubble of air, so it's more like flying than boating.
Maintaining some of the most death-defying slopes in the world is a snow groomer built to overcome gravity.
The quality of the slope is the number one for us. We need the best, the biggest, and the best built machines.
Where frozen wilderness exists, where snow and ice are relentless, and where exposure to the elements is a matter of life and death. Human survival depends on extreme ice machines. Situated in the heart of Alaska is Fairbanks International Airport. A lifeline for surrounding communities cut off by winter weather and vital to cargo transport along the northwest coast. But winter weather in this subarctic city can quickly switch from picturesque Alaskan landscapes to ice-locked tundra, endangering the arriving and departing flights at Fairbanks. To fight back, this industrious, dedicated crew has invented their own homegrown, ice-breaking solution, a gnarling northern monster, the Yeti. Designed and built by one of the maintenance crew's own, the Yeti is a Fairbanks original, using 588 nearly indestructible carbide-tipped teeth. Hydraulically operated and attached to a massive wheel loader, this machine is unstoppable on the runway and ramps, cracking through inches of solid subarctic ice. With carefully calculated tooth placement and house machine-laid steel drums, each tooth applies maximum pressure, meeting all the needs of this impressive Alaskan airport. Like its operators in its home state, this extreme machine is built for survival. Fairbanks International Airport serves up to 1 million passengers a year, with only one commercial and cargo aircraft runway. Its crew is under a lot of pressure to keep things open and operating smoothly.
It's a small and mighty crew. I have 7 mechanics keeping all the airport equipment operational, and it's not just snow equipment. Without them, Fairbanks International would be in trouble.
And operations at Fairbanks cannot stop. Besides being an alternate refueling airport for Anchorage, which is the 5th largest cargo airport in the world, Fairbanks is also crucial for surrounding communities.
It is critical that Fairbanks doesn't shut down because of the planes that leave out of here are going to villages that are bringing fuel, food, supplies, medical stuff. It's just, we're the lifeline to a lot of the villages that are close. I mean, it could be life or death.
However, Fairbanks suffers from unique challenges. Sitting at the base of the Hayes Mountain Range, the airport can experience extreme lows of -50 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's also susceptible to Chinook winds, which coat the airport's runways and ramps in inches of solid ice.
The Chinook winds are warm air mass being brought up from the south, and they affect the airport because they can bring rain with them instead of snow, and then that turns into ice because the asphalt isn't up to the same air temperature, so we have direct freezing rain soon. It turns right to ice.
It's a dangerous situation for the team at Fairbanks. Planes can land at speeds over 100 miles an hour. Inadequate de-icing of the runways and ramps can lead to disaster.
And that's what brought the Yeti online, is we had to fight those rainstorms with the amount of rain that we were getting in just a short period of time.
We really don't have a choice to let it get to that point. When we start getting slick runway conditions, it's all hands on deck.
It was a call to action for the Fairbanks team, and one person in particular. Taking to his machine shop, the Yeti is the brainchild of Fairbanks Airport equipment mechanic, John Friesen.
Before the Yeti, to remove difficult ice, it was just graders, a lot of chemical. Typically, the harder the ice is to remove, the more chemical you have to use. Part of the idea behind the Yeti was to be able to eliminate some of that chemical use. Less chemical means less impact on the environment. When we first started talking about designing the Yeti, we had tried some commercially available units that worked in certain conditions, but for our airport conditions just didn't work. So I was tasked with trying to see if there was a better solution, just doing some online research and ideas of my own, put it together at home on the weekends.
For years, the Fairbanks crew tried multiple commercially available machines that just couldn't cut it or break the ice. Building off of years of testing and research, John invented the tougher, more robust, and more effective Yeti icebreaker. A multi-cylinder, hydraulically powered loader attachment, a homemade hero for Fairbanks de-icing operations. The key to the Yeti's success is its perfectly placed carbide teeth.
The Yeti has 588 ground engaging tools. They're made of steel with a carbide tip. The carbide bits have never broken.
When facing extreme weather conditions, human and machine will only survive with their powers combined.
There's so many points there that there can't be any penetration. It would be akin to a man on a bed of nails.
Rolling down the Alaskan runway of Fairbanks Airport is the beastly bite of the carbide-tipped Yeti icebreaker, the innovative brainchild of in-house mechanic John Friesen. Carbide is short for tungsten carbide, a chemical compound containing equal parts tungsten and carbon. Beginning as tungsten ore, it's then crushed, heated, and treated with chemicals, and finally carburized to become a super strong metal.
Carbide is an extremely hard substance. As far as I know, the only thing harder than carbide is diamond.
Teeth are then staggered in rows to ensure that each point applies maximum pressure.
Each drum has a row of 4, and the next row would be a row of 3, and so on all the way around the whole steel drum. The reason I believe some of the other commercially available ones don't work is they have too many points on the ground at once. There's so many points there that there can't be any penetration. It would be akin to a man on a bed of nails. I just set it on the ground, put it in float, and watching my speed, I can adjust how much it impacts the ice by controlling how fast I go.
But it's a difficult balance. Too much pressure could damage the runway.
The sharper, more aggressive bits had a tendency to damage the asphalt because it was getting too deep a penetration, and it would actually go through the ice. So this is the one I decided on.
The teeth are manually screwed into custom-built mating blocks, welded to 14 steel drums that were machine-laid by John himself.
The drums are something that I built here. They're all machined on a lathe. The drum centers are machined on a lathe and a mill. The original frame was designed to be mounted on the back of a road grader as a compactor, and I modified it to attach to the front end of a loader so that the operator could have more control visually.
The drums create pockets in the ice, allowing de-icing chemicals to access the underlying asphalt faster. A strong, simple, made-in-Alaska solution.
I'm not an engineer. I just have been doing this kind of work for a long time and have gained a lot of experience. I spent a lot of time developing this on my own time at home and was fortunate enough to be able to build it at work. So it makes me feel proud that I was able to accomplish that. Feels pretty good.
Using on-the-ground engineering, this machine, handmade, uses serviceable, replaceable parts and is 5 to 6 times less costly to manufacture than purchasing a brand new machine. In tandem with using fewer de-icing chemicals, this one-of-a-kind snow eater is award-winning for creating greater airside safety with less cost.
Having John on the crew is very amazing. His abilities, man, he just comes up with lots of different things. The Yeti is probably the most renowned one, and he has the desire to improve things and make things better. I'm real proud of my people. They make me look good.
Chinook winds and freezing rain are no match for this extreme machine. Devouring ice without rest, while keeping crews and passengers safe, communities fed, and international flights well on their way in the worst conditions. This machine and its creators show their resourcefulness, resilience, and ingenuity in the midst of life in the North.
And this is a whole team here, and it takes everybody's full effort to keep this airport operating.
If necessity is the mother of innovation, look no further than the Yeti icebreaker.
Maintaining our runway and keeping this airport open is not an option. There's not an option for failure.
Guarding over Swedish waterways is a marine machine so light on its feet, it floats on air, even when it's under pressure on search and rescue missions.
It's a complex machine in all its simplicity. It's a machine like no other.
The city of Luleå sits on the shores of the Bay of Bothnia. a harbor town on the Baltic Sea in northern Sweden. It is home to Sweden's 7th largest seaport and is surrounded by over 1,300 islands, also known as an archipelago, that make up the region. Tasked with overseeing the health and safety of the residents and outdoor enthusiasts who live, work, and explore the islands is the Swedish Coast Guard. The Bay of Bothnia is shallow, and during the frigid winter season, it quickly freezes over. To navigate the icy waterways within the archipelago, the Swedish Coast Guard has turned to a vessel that can travel easily over any terrain, be it ice, water, or land. The 2450 Hovercraft. A single-engine amphibious vehicle that can travel over any permeable surface and capable of carrying heavy payloads while floating above the surface on a cushion of air, 3 feet above the ground, water, or ice. For Swedish Coast Guard engineer Connie Renkvist, it's the only means of transportation that can safely handle the conditions around Luleå. And today's assignment shows what this machine is capable of. There's a report of an Arctic-bound expedition team from Finland that is navigating through the archipelago in preparation for an upcoming mission. And the Coast Guard needs to make sure they're traveling safely through these treacherous conditions. Those unfamiliar with the area can quickly encounter problems.
This is an extreme ice machine because we can go basically anywhere. Bringing sick people back in from islands during thaw season where you can't use a snowmobile, you can't use a boat. The weather is too poor to fly a helicopter, and we can still go out and help people.
A key reason the Swedish Coast Guard relies on the Hovercraft is its ability to glide quickly and effortlessly over varied terrain in extreme weather conditions. Because the Hovercraft floats on a pocket of air, it isn't restricted by the terrain below it.
We can drive on thin ice if we want to, or on open water, and in almost any weather conditions. So, regarding search and rescue operations, we have a much bigger way of being of assistance with an hovercraft.
Nej, du ska stänga den. Visar det här nu och stänger igen.
Connie began working with Hovercraft in 1997, and when the vehicle manufacturer approached him to help design the new 2450 model the Coast Guard now uses, he jumped at the chance.
A few things that came to mind straight off was higher clearance, better comfort, better loading capabilities, and it all came out like this. This 2450, it was based on a 2400, the same model as the Royal Marines are using today. But we wanted a larger cargo bay so we could transport 2 snowmobiles. So they need to make it a bit wider, and they needed to make it a bit longer as well.
One of the features Connie requested was more clearance height. In the winter, as the water freezes and melts around Luleå, and large cargo ships travel through the Fairway Channel, ice chunks form on the surface, which posed a problem for their previous hovercraft.
The old craft had a clearing of roughly 50 centimeters, and we constantly got stuck in the fairway all the time. So we wanted at least a double clearance that we had. Thus came 1 meter clearance as a demand for us.
With a clearance height of 3 feet, there is now little danger of the 2450 Hovercraft getting stuck on ice chunks. Today, the Coast Guard has brought the Hovercraft out on the ice and will pilot their way toward the Finnish expedition team, currently testing their new gear in the tricky terrain in preparation for an upcoming Arctic mission.
Right now we're heading out just to check on some people coming from Finland to Sweden. It's quite common that people that want to do an Arctic trip use the Bay of Bothnia as a sort of practicing ground, just to try out and see if their equipment stands up to all the cold and everything. There's a storm coming in tomorrow, and we just want to make sure that they are in a reasonably safe place.
A crucial part of the Coast Guard's job is to monitor travel around the islands, given the precarious territory. Before leaving Finland, the expedition team notified the Coast Guard of their intended route. So Connie and his crew are heading to the projected location to ensure the team's safety from the impending storm. The hovercraft crew is gliding over the frozen ice on a pocket of air powered by 2 fans, one that controls the lift and the other that controls the propulsion.
Back here we have the engine plant. We just have one engine on this craft. It's a V8 water-cooled, 580, 90 horsepower. And the same engine drives the lift fan as well as the propeller. This is our prop. It's a wooden core with some stainless steel reinforcements on the tips. From this propeller, we can produce 900 kilos of thrust, and it would give us an estimate top speed of 50 knots.
With a top speed of 50 knots, or just over 57 miles per hour, the hovercraft can cover a lot of ground on its missions.
We're making 29 knots at present moment. A normal speed would be like 25, 30 knots if it's an own area and all the conditions are right. The hovercraft weighs 11 tons and it pushes its own weight downwards. That's how we sort of hover. And this one, it distributes all the 11 tons on the whole of the surface. And it's 15 meters long and 8 meters wide. So the footprint isn't that bad.
The ground pressure a hovercraft exerts while traveling over land is less than 1/16 of the average human footprint, keeping the Coast Guard above danger, never in it. The even distribution of weight is due to the immense air pocket produced by the lift fan.
Once the engine starts, it starts to drive the lift fan. The air intake for the lift fan is in here, goes in, and underneath here we have a big air fan, and that pumps out air underneath the craft. We have to lift the craft up and crawl in underneath to have a look at it.
Ongoing checks of the vehicle are important. The hovercraft must be ready at a minute's notice to service the 24/7 needs of this stormy terrain and those in potential danger because of it.
The ice is moving back and forth all the time, and it's relatively thin. I would guess that's one of the main reasons they're not here.
Protecting the waterways and hundreds of islands along the coastline of northern Sweden is the 2450 Hovercraft, a marine vehicle capable of carrying heavy cargo while effortlessly floating through precarious weather and ground conditions during its seaport duties.
Welcome into the rabbit hole. So this is the hull of the craft, aluminum. And if we want to have a peek at the lift fan, you have to crawl underneath here. This over here is the lift fan. So as soon as we start the engine, this one starts to run and starts to produce air that goes in underneath the craft. Blows it up like a balloon.
As the lift fan is engaged, it blows air into the cavity under the hovercraft, which is contained around the edge of the vehicle by a flexible curtain called the skirt.
The skirt design works like this. We have air coming from the lift fan, fills up the cavity, and all the air starts to fill up between the segments. The segments closes tight, so it becomes almost an airtight connection between them. And therefore the air stays underneath the hovercraft.
The engine drives the lift fan, which blows air into the pocket created by the skirt. As the throttle on the engine increases, so too does the volume and amount of air within the skirt until the entire craft is lifted off the ground. Air now escapes underneath the bottom edge of the skirt, allowing the craft to literally float on air. Once airborne, the hovercraft's movement is frictionless. Today, the ground is relatively clear of obstacles, as Hovercraft Commander Per Sundvall pilots the machine in their search for the expedition team.
In my right hand, I have a joystick. When I go to starboard, I put the joystick to the right. And when I go to port side, I put it in the left direction. And on this one, I have the propeller pitch, and the RPM on the engine is on this one.
There is some difficulties to learn how to drive a hovercraft. Normally, it'll take roughly 50 hours behind the stick before you can sort of call yourself a hovercraft pilot, with correct training, of course. We're balancing the craft on a bubble of air, so it's more like flying than boating.
The Coast Guard is heading to the last known position of a Finnish expedition team preparing for an upcoming Arctic mission. An impending winter storm could not only derail their plans, it threatens their safety.
It's a lot of islands to be hiding around, but 4 people on skis and a few canoes can't be that hard to find.
As the crew approaches the destination, a call comes in from headquarters in Luleå.
Kustbevakningen Rönnqvist.
Connie has received word that the group they are looking for is no longer in the area.
We got a phone call that said that they are currently up in mountain area and doing their practice run up there. The ice is moving back and forth all the time, and it's relatively thin, and I would guess that's one of the main reasons they are not here.
Although they didn't make contact with the expedition team, preventative measures like these are crucial. All too often, the outcome is devastating and in some cases deadly, because storms in the waterway can capsize boats, drown hikers, or at the very least, strand them on an island without enough means to survive.
Now we can sleep tight and be assured that they're not out in the pack ice. So that's one good thing.
Patrolling the waterways is a 24/7 job for the Swedish Coast Guard, made much easier in the extreme conditions along icy paths by the 2450 Hovercraft.
It's a complex machine in all its simplicity. It's a machine like no other.
Climbing its way to the top of one of the steepest ski runs in the world is a lone wolf that protects thrill seekers from Mother Nature's wrath.
It's very important for me to make it perfect slope. The slope's not perfect, the skier can fall down.
Kitski Resort, 5,617 feet above sea level. Famous for its spectacular beauty and long ski season. Legend has it that downhill skiing was invented here in 1893, and skiers and snowboarders have been flocking to these mountains ever since. It's also home to the most death-defying course of the Alpine Ski World Cup races. Every year, 1.5 million people take to Kitski's 140 miles of downhill slopes known as pistes that range in difficulty from absolute beginner to almost death-defying. High up in the mountains, weather and terrain aren't easy to control. Hazards like ice, wet snow, rocks, even deep unpacked snow threaten the safety of skiers. Managing the conditions can seem like a never-ending struggle. Meet the Pre-Knot Light Wolf, the key warrior in a battle for perfect slopes. Light Wolf means leader of the pack in German, and this extreme ice machine lives up to its name in size, power, and maneuverability. This monster packs 530 horsepower under the hood, has a working width of 14 feet, and a state-of-the-art hydraulic system that gives it its exceptional agility.
The quality of the slope is the number one for us.
Our most important tools are the snow grooming system and the snow groomers.
The choice to go with the Light Wolf was we need the best, the biggest, and the best built machines.
Christoph Hasenauer is the head of the snow management team here at the Kitski Resort.
The first time I sat in the Light Wolf, I was really impressed by the powerful, strong machine. It is so powerful, you just feel the power of this machine.
The Light Wolf can operate at 13,000 feet above sea level and at temperatures as low as minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. This extreme machine can tackle any challenge the Alps can throw at it, thanks in large part to its unique weight distribution.
It's a good machine, it's easy to control, it's a very fast machine, it's a really cool machine.
Franz Lemberger has been grooming the slopes at the Kitski Resort for 12 years.
Very important in my job is that you have a nice piste for the people, that they can skiing perfect. It's very important for me to make it perfect slope. The slope's not perfect. Something different in the high, that the skier can fall down.
And to achieve this perfection, the Light Wolf is equipped with a 6-cylinder, 530 horsepower engine that generates 1,947 foot-pounds of torque to power it through pushing the snow uphill against gravity. Andreas Muig knows the Light Wolf inside and out.
The Light Wolf itself is the leader of the pack. It's the most powerful snow groomer in the world with 530 horsepower. It's the most wide snow groomer what we have in our range with 4.5 meters working width.
That's about 14 feet wide, which allows the Light Wolf to cover more ground as it's grooming. But to push that snow up the mountain, this machine needs speed and power, and that starts in the engine.
What we see here is the engine from underneath. This is the biggest engine used in the snow groomer in this moment of time. The 530 horsepower are produced in here, then distributed to the splitter, the gearbox, and then we're going into the hydrostatic drive. So we have here the drive pumps from the left and the right tracks. And with those high pressure hoses, the whole energy is distributed to the final drives, and this is where the power and the torque is brought to the tracks and down to snow.
All of it is controlled with the touch of a button on the cabin joystick.
Specific on the Light Wolf is the electro-hydraulic control system. So the joystick gives an electric impulse to the brain, and here all the movements are controlled and steered.
You can control the whole machine with the joystick, so I think that's the coolest feature.
It's 4 a.m. And before skiing starts for the day, a pack of Light Wolves head to the slopes. The Light Wolf has a seemingly simple task. Push snow with the front blade, pack it down with the tracks, and finish off the surface into a precise ridge pattern, known as corduroy, with the tiller or finisher.
Wichtig, den Schnee gleichmäßig zu verteilen, damit die Skifahrer eine gute.
But on some slopes, where the grade can reach a staggering 45%, achieving perfection can be a struggle. Pushing 2 tons of snow uphill, thousands of feet above sea level, is no small task. The Light Wolf gains extra power from a winch.
So I'm hooking in because my hill is too steep, so I need help from the winch.
The winch hooks up to a steel pole on the slope.
Dann haben wir noch als nächstes Besonderheit die Winde. Die unterstützt uns beim Bergauffahren mit 4,8 Tonnen. Hat eine Seil von Länge von 1200 Metern drauf. Die Winde ist sehr wichtig beim Bergauffahren für den besseren Grip. Und sie unterstützt die Maschine einfach als Unterstützung zum Hochziehen.
The Light Wolf is the most powerful snow groomer in the world. But the key to a perfect grind is in the tiny teeth of the tiller.
That, in one word, is the most important tool on the groomer.
Combing the unpredictable peaks of Kitski is a one-of-a-kind world-class snow groomer that effortlessly handles the ever-changing ski conditions on some of the most perilous runs in the world. And when a slope has a particularly treacherous grade, the Light Wolf relies on its winch for added muscle. With the winch firmly anchored, Franz slowly heads the Light Wolf down the slope, letting out the steel cable behind him. Once the Light Wolf reaches its destination, Franz turns this 15-ton machine 360 degrees to head back up the mountain. This is where the Light Wolf earns its title as the most powerful snow groomer in the world. Through a sophisticated network of sensors and GPS, the Light Wolf is able to measure the snow underneath it and create a smooth slope over any kind of terrain.
Coming here to the front portion, this is where as well the sensors for the snow measurement system. The snow management system is able to position the vehicle up to an accuracy of 1 inch. So this allows to have a clear idea how much layer of snow is underneath the vehicle, and this allows the operator to make his decision on site and distribute the snow exactly where it's needed.
We have here the GPS antenna. That's one of the two. And that's very important for us as helping for moving the snow. So we can exactly see how much snow we have, and it works to 2 centimeters exactly.
As Franz drives over the course, GPS antennae on the top of the vehicle relays his coordinates and shows Franz exactly where he is on the course, and whether he should add snow or take it away. Franz is able to control the depth of the base layer and shape the slope as needed. While the GPS is key to reading snow depth, it's the blade that's crucial in moving it.
Das ist eigentlich das Wichtigste bei der ganzen Maschine. Mit dem verteilen wir den ganzen Schnee, schieben den Schnee. Funktioniert alles auch wieder hydraulisch gesteuert mit Zylindern. Das Schild können wir alle Seiten steuern, vorne, zurück, links, rechts. Wir können aufmachen, das ist sehr wichtig, wenn wir den Schnee auf die Seite verteilen wollen, können wir dann so aufmachen und der Schnee fällt raus.
The snow moves from the blade and ends up under the massive belt tracks that give the Light Wolf traction.
And here we see the aluminium fins. When go up, have more grip. We like that one more because you can go up easier the mountain. At the moment, it's only the halfway in the snow, sometimes the all in the snow.
The tracks pack down and grade the snow, which has already been sheared by the blade, making it smoother and softer once it reaches the tiller behind.
That one turns very fast and mix the snow.
Heat is created via friction from the mixing. And in the very last step, that heat is sealed in by the combing from the tiller, creating the beautiful, even ridged finish known as corduroy.
That, in one word, is the most important tool on the groomer, and this is really creating the surface and the long-lasting layer on the snow.
Technology, size, speed, and agility have given the Lightwolf bragging rights as the world's best snow groomer, with the goal of creating the perfect piece.
Kitski is known as one of the best ski resorts, but we take the pressure on us to serve the guest the best slope, the best track we can have. The choice to go with the Lightwolf was we need the best, the biggest, and the best built machines.
We're selling good ski moments and mountain moments, and the snow groomer is the necessary tool for this one.
I would call it a real extreme ice machine who's doing a really good job on the mountain.
The Yeti, the 2450 Hovercraft, and the Lightwolf. 3 extreme ice machines that help make life and work in the North possible.
Before the Yeti, to remove difficult ice, it was just graders, a lot of chemical. Part of the idea behind the Yeti was to be able to eliminate some of that chemical use. Less chemical means less impact on the environment. I spent a lot of time developing this on my own time at home and was fortunate enough to be able to build it at work. It makes me feel proud that I was able to accomplish that. Feels pretty good.
This is an extreme ice machine because we can go basically anywhere where you can't use a snowmobile, you can't use a boat. The weather is too poor to fly a helicopter, and we can still go out and help people. Normally it'll take roughly 50 hours behind the stick before you can sort of call yourself a hovercraft pilot. We're balancing the craft on a bubble of air, so it's more like flying than boating. It's a complex machine in all its simplicity. It's a machine like no other.
The first time I sat in the Lightwolf, I was really impressed by the powerful, strong machine. It's so powerful, you just feel the power of this machine.
It's a good machine, it's easy to control, it's a very fast machine. It's a really cool machine.
I would call it a real extreme ice machine who's doing a really good job on the mountain.
In the frozen landscape of the North, the climate is an ever-present danger. Whether it's creating new technology to battle age-old challenges, floating across frozen waters, saving lives, or grooming mountains to ensure a safe run, human survival has come to depend on these extreme ice machines.